Treg's perspective. "Whoa!" I yelp as, with a lazy wave of her arm, the immensely dense and stocky woman utterly flings me across the path in front of her by the wrist, forcefully enough that I almost lose my feet. She barely had to shift her weight to accommodate for my slightly more than 100 kilogram of mass. She just sent me into orbit around her like a moon around its planet. I straighten up and, walking backwards, look down into her eyes, about 30 centimeters below mine, up into her girlfriend's 30 centimeters above, then back before saying, "Oh my god, sis, you weren't joking about being the strongest in the galaxy, were you?" "Strongest unaugmented woman," she corrects with autistic straightforwardness. "Could I have a feel of your arm?" I ask, hopefully. Unusually for me, horniness is barely a factor in the ask. I'm genuinely medically curious as to what her muscles must feel like. The Tshirt woman chuckles and smirks as my Neander sister yanks up her right sleeve with her left hand and holds out the arm to me at the level of my diaphragm. I extend my tan hands to the much paler skin of the muscle mummy's wrist. I grip lightly and run my hands up her forearm. I audibly gasp as my fingers reach her extensor and flexor carpi. I squeeze. Nothing. I squeeze harder. Nothing! The muscles have absolutely no give in them at all. It's like feeling the arm of a perfectly anatomically correct, if wildly out of proportion, statue of carved marble. Only the heat and the unnervingly slow pulse give it away that what I hold in my hands is flesh and not stone, metal or very dense wood. I've never felt anything like it, and as a doctor, that's saying something. I frown into Hunter's Euro-featured face and ask, "You get your heart checked regularly, right? I assume you know you're hypertrophic. You know the risks of that." "I know, and I do," she says neutrally, blinking her mossy green eyes. "Good," I say firmly, before sliding my hands up past her elbow to wrap them around her biceps and triceps. My eyes widen as I realize, though my middle fingertips are touching each other on the underside of her arm, my thumb tips are nowhere even close to touching over the top. My two hands aren't enough to enclose this girl's roided out muscles. Jesus fucking Christ, I mutter to myself, as I feel the iron-hard flesh between my hands. At this point, my brother appears on the right, my left of the girl, where we stopped on the path, and I whip my head to him. "You felt these arms, Vicky?" "I've been sailing with her for years and training with her for most of that time, T. Of course I felt her arms. Basically everyone gets to the point where they ask to have a go, just most of us take a few weeks instead of a few hours to be comfortable enough. Maybe give Fran her arm back, she's getting embarrassed." I whip my head back to the short girl's face and find it utterly devoid of expression, the way it's been since I met her. Her cheeks, however, have a blush of pink to them. I immediately release the muscles that feel more like steel cables and apologize. "Sorry, sis. Forgot my manners." Sincerely. "It's fine," she lies. The tall Queen Tshirt reaches a spindly left hand over to her girlfriend's beefy left shoulder and pulls, or is allowed to pull, her right one against her left hip to smirk down at me. My girl's body tends to have that effect on people, forged in the heart of a dying star. Their height difference is outright ridiculous to make shoulder-to-hip contact possible like that. I can't imagine all the other fun things that'd make possible, and I consider myself quite imaginative. The Autie girl pulls down her sleeves and I turn around to keep walking. Not to break a scapula by patting myself on the back too hard, but I have to say, I picked a good route for this hike based only on online research. This place kind of gives me the same vibes as, I don't know, Washington? No, Oregon. Not as hot as Oregon's been every time I remember going, but otherwise definitely gives me the vibe of hiking through a forested valley in Willamette. It's so lovely. I take out my holo and save my current coordinates so I can call a capsule to bring Lloyd and Sika at some point before we go home. I'm just putting it away again when I hear my brother's voice hissing, "Stop!" from the front of the column. Everyone in earshot immediately comes to a dead halt, with those far enough back in the line taking an extra second to work out something's up. He blasts a brief, hissing whistle that I'm guessing he's calculated to be audible exactly as far as it needs to be, and no further. Bounding from the undergrowth up to his side is a long black mass with two giant amber eyes visible on the front. Fluffy reaches Vicky's side and looks up at him, expectantly. "Stay, girl," he says with a serious tone, bringing a hand to briefly brush the top of her head. My brother turns and takes a few steps along the natural rocky wall that lines the path to our right, his giant hexapedal cat staying firmly planted where she is with the rest of us. Vicky sweeps his head, scanning every direction something might appear from, visibly sniffing while he does. I sniff too. There's something on the air that wasn't there before, some kind of animal smell, I'm guessing. Embarrassing as it is to have my nose outdone by a sapiens, I'm not going to take it too hard. Bro's an exception to a lot of rules of thumb about which lineages do what best. It goes past the end of the cliffs and looks right, down the hill, in the direction the path turns. Immediately he turns around and silently jogs back to where he left us, beckoning for those at the back to come forward. He reaches the huddle and hunches down to quietly explain. "Alright guys, so about 130 meters down that hill, there's some trolls. Spotted free, could be more. These things are big, but good news is they're herbivores. Same rules as for any herbivore that can kill you. They ain't gonna come looking for a fight with us just because they've seen us. Just can't make them think we might be trying to hunt them or nothing. They're pretty spectacular animals, so I think everyone should go and have a look at them, in groups of 2 to 3 at a time, but because they're on the path, when everyone's seen them, we've got to find a detour that'll take us around where they..." He stops dead, mid-sentence. He straightens back up to look over everyone's heads. His head and eyes dart back and forth a few times, widening in horror, as he leans to look around the Tshirt. Where's her sec? Her sex perspective. My suit marches across the terrain of this treacherous deathward biome, myself secreted within its cushioned interior, entirely safe from harm for being encased within the impenetrable exterior of Terran Miracle Alloy. I approach the brutes, each substantially more than twice my stature, and of orders of magnitude greater bulk than I. Doing battle with these beasts shall indeed be arduous, but shouldering this burden alone shall surely ingratiate me to my fellow questers. They shall come upon me, standing atop the vanquished forms of these monsters, and shall utterly lavish praise upon me for my gallantry. Now, how best to assure my triumph? My helm scans the bodies of the creatures and identifies numerous vulnerabilities I might exploit to close the vast gulf in magnitude, and even my augmented power. I've just settled on attacking the back of the nearest one's leg to sever its Achilles tendon, when my sensors sound a proximity alert. Something is rapidly approaching me from the rear. I open my rearview camera just in time to see a blur, a fraction of a second before it hits me in the small of the back. The Predator transfers such momentum into my armor that the actuators lock to prevent my vertebral column from shattering, and even my mechanical plantigrade feet don't have a fraction of the length they would need to keep me from being hurled to the ground. I'm winded by the force of my landing, knocking the air from my lung. No sooner had this vile assailant knocked me flat than they have seized my suit's left angle and begun dragging me backwards, away from the beasts with which I was about to do glorious battle, at a velocity to make the firmament itself recoil. I just witnessed a fleshy, lilac-skinned nose and pair of steely grey eyes being turned in my and my attacker's direction from 60 meters away and 6 meters in the air when a mineral outcrop comes between the ogre and I. The Predator releases my leg. Now that it has succeeded in bringing me away from any competition, it likely means to attempt to kill me. No matter. It is exceedingly unlikely to happen upon any means of penetrating my defenses before my fellows have reached our location. I only regret that not only will I have not defeated the beasts I meant to, I will myself require rescue from this new aggressor. An appendage is wrapped around my right shoulder, and another at that elbow to lock that arm and keep me from deploying my blade rearward into its belly, as the Predator rolls me onto my back. What is revealed is not a snarling beast with a mouthful of fangs out, but rather my nemesis. I swivel my head this way and that to see where the one that attacked me ran to, but find nothing. Where's... Did I hurt you? He hisses, managing to twist his features into the most obviously furious expression I've ever seen on a non-Kreskar face. Pardon? I query, bewildered. Are you hurt, he restates, slowly, as if he thinks me dull-witted. I'm unhurt, I state, confused. Good. Now you mind telling me what in the actual fuck you were thinking here, Don Quixotle? I know not this Don Quixote you speak of, but I was... Stepping up to fight with 60 tons of troll was what it fucking looked like, mate. Snarls my nemesis, baring his metallic teeth in anger. Precisely. You don't seem pleased. Are you concerned such odds would have been too insurmountable without... They would have fucking flattened you, Hasek. Unless you somehow managed to fit inertial fucking dampening into that suit, wouldn't have mattered that they couldn't get through it. Wouldn't have mattered how strong it was. I'm a 115-kilogram human, Hasek. I managed to rugby tackle you to the ground easy. Each of their arms probably outmasses me 20 times over. Think about what would have happened if one of them landed a swipe on you. Or don't, cause I'll fucking tell you what'll happen. Your brain fucking puree itself on the inside of your fucking skull, first from the acceleration imparted by their hand, then from the deceleration imparted by whatever you hit. Same goes for all your other internals in your ribcage. Words can't do fucking justice to how dead you'd have been if I'd have let you fight those things. In a rare moment for me, my nemesis tirade has left me speechless. I have become so used to always being the most intelligent individual in whatever space I happen to stand in, that hearing the obviously correct physics I hadn't come even remotely close to intuiting be explained by this man, to whom they seem to come as naturally as breathing, leaves me stunned. I finally managed to find my voice to ask, then, in what way do you intend them to be dealt with? The man scowls. Who says they need dealing with, Hasek? Confused, I answer. You yourself explained how effortlessly those animals could and would kill us. How do you mean to progress beyond them if they aren't neutralized? Looking at me the way one might at a particularly dim spawnling, the Death Order crouches into a squat and asks, So, let me get this straight. In your mind, anytime a Death Order wants to take a walk somewhere and finds an animal in our way, we have to kill it? My intestines twist, as I realize that his precisely correct assessment of my thought process is, in fact, an obviously incorrect assessment of the conditions of Death World life. My nemesis brings the fingertips of his right hand to massage the flesh of his forehead, while sighing. Hasek, I've been a Terran security officer for over a decade at this point, and I don't think I've ever had someone manage to be so wildly off in their estimations of Death World danger, in both directions at once, fucking somehow, as you just were. Okay, Hasek, for starters, no. You've massively misunderstood how much and often Death Worlders need to fight each other. Death Worlds may be more violent places than Garden Worlds, but the same logic applies to both. Death World animals don't want to get into avoidable fights any more than Garden World ones do. 99 times out of 100, when one Death World animal sees another coming, they can both immediately tell whose job it is to give way to who, without a fight needing to happen about it. In this case, it was our job to give way to them. If you hadn't slunk off to try soloing them, you could have been there when I was saying, after everyone had a look, we should find a detour so we didn't spook them and add to Ferriscandia's troll death stats. You sneak up on a megafaunal herbivore like you were just trying, they're gonna think they're under attack and need to defend themselves. You ever heard the phrase, self-fulfilling fucking prophecy? Also, it ain't just needlessly risky to fight and kill everything in your way, it's cruel too. Those guys are minding their own business, munching on leaves. They didn't know we was coming. They didn't want to get in our way. They defo didn't ask to get attacked out here just for existing, or to suddenly need to choose between killing you or being killed. Especially not when there's so many alternatives. You can't go round? Go back. Can't go back? Go through quietly, without making noise or sudden moves. You can scare them off if that's feasible, but fighting them off should be a port of absolute last resort. Second, as I've already explained, you've massively overestimated the leg up a power suit of Tshirt had given you, if you did need to fight those things. No one I've ever chaperoned has managed to simultaneously under and overestimate the risks of a Death World so far as you just did. Mucus is pouring off my face in shame at the man rightfully explicating my foolhardy hubris. Are you going to send me away, Taylor? I ask quietly. He takes a breath and narrows his eyes down at me, appraising. Finally, he says, I have conditions, Hasek. 3 things I want you to agree to if you don't want me calling a capsule at the next point their space one to land, frog marching you onto it, and telling it to take you back to your hotel. These are non-negotiable, and I need you to agree to them with your whole chest, alright? What are your conditions, Taylor? I blink, bewildered by this apparent second chance. He holds up the digit 2 of his pterodactyl right hand, his palm facing me. First, you ain't to go more than 20 meters away from me again for the rest of the trip, unless I've said it's okay. He holds up the 3. Second, any instruction I give you needs to be followed without argument. Explanation and discussion's fine if I'm talking at a normal volume, pace and tone, but if I'm shouting, speaking quick or agitated, you need to do what I'm saying in the moment and ask questions later. The digit 4 comes up. Third, you want to do anything other than just walking on the path again, you need to tell me first. You want to pick up a rock as a souvenir? I want you to point it out to me and wait for me to give the all clear. All clear, Hasek? He stands and holds the hand he just used as a simple abacus down to me. I reach my non-dominant hand across myself to grasp it, sealing the pact with the words, Agreed, Taylor. Good, he answers, using his bargaining hand to pull me to my feet. Now follow me and try not to make any noise until we're well away from the trolls. I follow my worthy nemesis, as he stalks away from the animals I had just so foolishly thought to battle. After a little while he straightens back to full height, and resumes a standard human walk. He turns to me and asks, Out of curiosity, Hasek, how'd you even know about the trolls? I know you didn't manage to slink away after I sniffed them out. I tap the side of my cask and answer, Nova Ferriscandia maintains tags on all living members of their species that they are aware of. They were flagged on my heads-up display several kilometers ago. His eyes widen in disbelief as he laughs. You thought of including a bloody troll tracker in your helmet, but didn't think of, I don't know, looking up any advice on what to do about them if you weren't going to ask me? Treg's perspective. I must confess that my loneliness is killing me now. Ow! Don't you know, I still believe that you will be here and give me a sign. Hit me, baby, one more time! Belt out the crowd of nicely drunk people singing and dancing around a massive bonfire in the middle of a ring of tents. The next moment, the forest echoes with what I'm sure, to a person standing 2 to 5 kilometers from here, would sound like an eerie wail of the damned, as we all scream at the top of our lungs in appreciation of a good song. Well sung! The handful of garden warders present are all visibly bewildered by the display of instant barbarian behaviour from the Terrans. That was the first song of the night to get quite that reaction. While the next song choice is being mooted, I spot the armoured frogman lean close to my brother and say something. Vicky gives a nod, and her sex steps away from the fire in the direction of where my brother told him to set up his tent, at the back of camp with cliffs behind, obviously to give him the least chance of being able to sneak away without waking anyone else up during the night. Excusing myself from the company of the pretty Persian girl in the blue hijab, I surreptitiously follow the Kreskar back to his tent. I catch him just as he's pulling aside the door curtain of the gigantic looming yurt that looks like it was designed after Megamind's Black Mamba cape, revealing an interior lit by red fairy lights. Hey there, most sagacious and perspicacious Hasek. I call out to him, loud enough he'll hear, not loud enough to risk attracting anyone else behind me's attention. The looming armoured man turns his sensor bar around and, in a voice that's calmer and more reserved than I'd have believed possible this morning, says, Dr. Leaf, may I just say your skills in organising this expedition have not gone unappreciated. You really have performed splendidly as the mistress of merriment. I smile. Thank you, I appreciate it. Are you feeling alright? I'm not sure how much good I'd be in checking you out since I'm only a human doctor, but I'd do my best if you weren't feeling well. I am in fine health, Dr. Leaf. I simply wish to retire to be well rested for the morrow. It is neither a commentary on my internal state nor external conditions. Gesturing over my head to where the middle of camp have started another rowdy number. Okay, glad to hear that. Listen, just wanted to say, whatever Vicky said to you earlier, don't take it to heart, alright? I'm sure most of the folk here have been on the receiving end of at least one of Victor Cuddles Taylor, I can't believe you done this bollocking. I've had a few. Doesn't mean he hates you or nothing. The opposite, actually. Means he cares about you and wants you to do better. You're wrong, Dr. Leaf, states the armoured man, in the flattest voice I've yet heard him use. Wrong how? I frown. Too hard is precisely where I should take Taylor's words. Precisely because that is what will allow me to do better, as you say. And Taylor reaffirmed my choice to make him my avowed nemesis this day. He challenged me, exposed weakness in my thinking, gaps in my logic, flaws in myself that require correction. If I don't take this to heart, I shall be proving myself unworthy as his nemesis. I smile at the lanky amphibian, who just got a lot cuter with the revelation that Nemesis is apparently his culture's equivalent of a shonen rival character, and answer, "Well said, most sagacious and perspicacious Hasek." "You may call me simply Hasek if you wish it, Dr. Leaf," he invites. "All right, you can call me T if you want. Good night, Hasek. I hope you sleep well."